Hey there. So today I wanted to talk a bit about configuring editor profiles in SitecoreAI Page Builder. And what I mean by editor profiles, well, Sitecore recently enabled the ability to modify these editor toolbars in the rich text fields so that we could customize them. We could remove buttons that we don't feel necessary. We could add other options like allowing a user or an author to select a particular style from a list. So I'm going to run through how you set those all up. You're going to use an API, the Sites API in particular, and I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, let's do it. So in order to create a new editor profile and attach it to a particular environment in a site, we have to first get a JWT token that we can then use to authenticate all future API calls with. And today I'm going to use this graphical user interface, but you can do this using curl or other methods that you might find more comfortable. You could use tools like Bruno in this case, or Postman, or anything that you know floats your boat. So we're going to run this. It's a post command to the auth service. With that, we are getting or providing, I should say, a client ID, a client secret, the grant type, which is client credentials, and the audience, which is api.sitecorecloud.io. And the client ID and client secret you're going to be getting from the deploy um, service inside Portal. You're going to create a API token, or sorry, you're going to create a client ID and client secret from within that is basically allowed to communicate with a particular environment. I strongly recommend doing it to a particular environment, not just doing it from an organization level, largely because if you're making changes to editors, you don't want to accidentally, make the change to the production site when you're trying to update, the QA site as an example. So we're going to run this and it's going to take a couple seconds and you can see right back we've gotten an access token. So this token right here, although you can't see it because I'm covering it, is our JWT token. And we're going to use that with all of these other API calls from here on out. So we're going to copy this to Notepad just while we, set up the rest of the API calls. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use that JWT token that we've got in the previous one, add it to our necessary authorization header, and we're going to communicate with the environment. The environment ID is not the GUID of the environment. It actually is the name that you give it that you see in the deploy service underneath the project. So typically it might be QA, dev, or prod, or main in this case. It's going to be the normal name. It's not going to be a GUID. So don't be mistaken by that. It's just a simple get call to this path here. We're going to hit go, and it's going to return all of the sites that are within that environment. In this case, we've got a whole bunch because it's kind of a demo site that we've got set up. And what we care about are these GUIDs for the sites themselves. This is what we're going to use when we update the site's editor profile lists. And we'll show that up here next. So the next thing that we've got to do is we've actually got to create an editor profile. Right now, kind of out of the gate, nobody has any editor profiles. And we're going to use the editor profiles API endpoint. Again, also using the authorization JWT token, and in this case, also the content type application JSON. In the body, we're utilizing this rather simple JSON, but the value here is the JSON value of your editor. And so if you go look at the blog that I've got set up, titled Enabling and Configuring the Editor Toolbar in Sitecore Pages, you'll actually see what this looks like unescaped and whatnot. But this is the format it needs to be in. You need to have all the quotes escaped, and it's going to, in a single line effectively. So this is how you'll be able to set it up. And there's a number of different versions you can start with. The actual Sitecore AI Sites API documentation kind of lists several examples. I highly recommend just starting with one that has all of the features in it, because it's a great example. You'll get to see what is available. And it's far easier than to take items away than it is to try and figure out which items to add. Clients will obviously like everything, but they might not need everything, and it'll be up a discussion you have to have with them. So we're going to do this post call. We're going to run that, and you'll see the response is the actual editor now. We got it back. We got 201. We gave it the full editor in our case. The GUID here is what you care about. This is the editor GUID. You will use this when we update the site with the editor profiles that we want to store for that website. And once you've got this editor profile, it's available to any of the sites that are on the system, but you don't have to apply you don't have to apply all of the editors to all of the sites. You might have one for one site and a different one for the other. It's really quite flexible. You can also have multiple editor profiles for each site, but depending upon the level of skills that your authors might have, you might only need one. Now, if you didn't have access to the GUID for the editor profile that you wanted, and you couldn't remember what it is, you can just call the editor profiles API endpoint with a simple GET, obviously with the appropriate JWT token, and you will get all of the editors back in that list. So if you ever lose the GUID, don't fret; you can easily retrieve it. So with our site GUID that we got from prior, along with our editor profile GUID that we got when we created the editor profile, we're now just basically going to patch these sites, in this case, this one site that we have, with the appropriate editor profile value. So this is an array. We are only storing with a single editor profile this time, but we're basically just patching this portion of the site. So you don't need to send it the entire site. I highly recommend you don't, because it will update everything that you send it accordingly. So we're going to fire that over, and we're going to get the complete site JSON back. And you can see all the way down, basically at the bottom, is the editor profiles stored here under the settings. So just like we patch a website, we can update the editor profile if at some point in the future we feel that we want to change it. Again, we just need the editor profile GUID that we had before. We're going to be sending it a patch command to the editor profiles API endpoint, along with the escaped JSON it's very similar that we had sent it before. Fire that across, and we get the updated version back, so we know that updated correctly. So you'll know that you've successfully completed and set up your editor profile correctly if you come back over to Page Builder, hit a quick refresh, and then come back down to rich text field. You'll see your editor is now updated. So in our case, we kept the full editor, and we merely added a couple block styles to it. And so you can see what those styles are here. It will just keep this kind of 2-column list, and allow multiple columns. It does allow a person to select more than one style at a time. So there's certainly going to be some education for authors in terms of how they utilize these. But hopefully, and I know this will make our clients happy, they now have that ability to add these custom styles. Now, in our case, these are Tailwind styles, but they can be whatever styles that you have for your sites. Hopefully, this information makes it a lot easier to maintain something that might have seemed a little bit cumbersome, and it's really quite easy.